Investors, did you know that you can sell one of your rental investment properties without losing any of the profits to capital gains and level up to buy a larger investment property like an apartment? Yes, just like the game of Monopoly, trading your little green homes into a red hotel. But unlike a game, this is perfectly legal if you're using the tax strategy known as 1031 exchange. If you don't know what that is and you're not currently using it, then you're leaving a lot of wealth on the table. So sit back, relax, as I explain to you in this video how to utilize the 1031 exchange tax strategy to help you grow and scale your investment portfolio faster than you ever thought possible. Before we get into that, let me welcome those who have not been to my channel before. My name is lor.vang with the MoveSmart community. I'm a local realtor, investor, loan officer in the greater Milwaukee, Wisconsin market. And here at the MoveSmart community, I help consumers, buyers, sellers, and investors make their next real estate move a smart one. And so now let's get into this video and talk about the powerful 1031 tax strategy and how you can use it. Of course, before we begin, let's get the disclosures out of the way. I am not a CPA or a tax strategist, so the content in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. Consult your CPA or your tax strategist to see if this might work for what you're trying to accomplish. So with that out of the way, let's get into the real video here now. What is a 1031 exchange? Well, that is named after section 1031 of the IRS tax code. And what this says is that it allows real estate investors to sell an investment property and defer the payment of capital gains as long as they are going to reinvest those proceeds into another like-kind property. And so, in layman's terms, this means that you are selling one investment property to replace it with a new investment property that is similar. Some key things here is that it has to be an investment property you're selling. It cannot be your primary home. And the other key point is that you're only deferring paying capital gains taxes. That doesn't mean that you are eliminating them. So at some point, you could potentially have to pay the capital gains eventually. But don't worry, if you watch the end, I'll share a strategy that you can use to not have to pay any of that capital gains. But now let's talk about why you would want to use the 1031 exchange strategy. Well, it is perfect for an investor who maybe has a couple single family investment properties in their portfolio or smaller multifamily, right? So like a duplex, and they're trying to go to fourplexes, right? Or potentially they want small multifamily commercial apartments. So 8 units, 12 units, 16, 20, right? If you want to scale from, 1 to 4 units and go bigger, the 1031 exchange strategy is perfect for that, because that allows you to grow quickly without losing any of your sales profits to the IRS, right? Because of capital gains. Another scenario where it might make sense to use the 1031 exchange is if the investment property you're selling has appreciated greatly. So what that means is when you sell that property, you could potentially be hit with a massive capital gains tax bill. And so instead of paying that right now, you could defer that capital gains tax bill until a later point by using the 1031 exchange to buy another similar like-kind investment property. All right, sounds good so far. So you're ready to do a 1031 exchange. How do you go about doing that? Well, just so you're aware, there are a number of steps that you have to follow very strictly, as well as a very sensitive timeline. If you fail on either the processes or the timeline required, then the 1031 exchange fails. So step number 1 is to sell one of your investment properties. And so the action of the closing date of that sale is the trigger that starts this countdown. So from that moment on that you have the closing of your sale, now the countdown starts. So step 2 starts now. So that is that you have 45 days to identify up to 3 replacement properties. And the kicker is that you can only buy the properties that you've identified. Now, if one of those properties were to go under contract or you couldn't get an accepted offer, you could always remove and replace one of the 3 identified properties. But again, very important, you only have 45 days to identify, and you can only buy a property that you've identified. And you can also buy all 3 properties if you want to. Step 3 here is that you can't touch any of the profits or proceeds from the closing of your sale. So you have to hire a qualified third-party intermediary to hold on to the funds from your sale. So do not touch any of the money, right? If you've taken it from closing already, it's too late. You can't do a 1031 exchange. I've had a number of clients tell me after they've already closed, like a month later, they go, oh, hey, I want to do a 1031 exchange. Well, sorry, you're too late. Step 4, the last and final step, is that you have to close on your replacement property within 180 days of closing on the sale of your relinquished property, right? So that gives you exactly 180 days to work on buying one of the 3 identified properties. So those are the 4 simple steps to completing a 1031 exchange. Simple, right? Well, much easier said than done, to be honest. And so here are some additional things that you should know about doing a 1031 exchange. Number 1 is that it must be a like-kind property. So meaning that it has to be for investment purpose or business use. And then of course, the strict timeline, right? There are no extensions on the 45-day period to identify or the 180-day to close requirements. So if you don't meet either of those, then you are done. Also, the property that you're going to buy to replace the one you sold must be of equal or greater value. So as I mentioned earlier, you could identify up to 3, and as long as the cumulative value of all 3 combined are greater or the same, right, as the one that you're selling, then yes, you could buy all 3 if you wanted to, or just one as long as it meets the value criteria. And then lastly here, you must use a qualified intermediary to help you execute the 1031 exchange. You can't touch any of the sales proceeds from the sale of your property. Otherwise, that's an immediate fail. All right, awesome. No pressure, right? You're ready to do this. Just one last question. How much does it cost to execute a 1031 exchange? Well, great question, because the intermediary doesn't work for free, right? So depending on who you hire, it can be anywhere from $750 to potentially $1,500. And so if you think about it in the grand scale of things, right, not too expensive at all to use this tax strategy, this tool to help you use 100% of your sales profits from one of your sales of your investment property to continue to grow and scale your investment portfolio bigger. So as you can see, the 1031 exchange is one of the lowest cost and most effective tools out there to help you grow and scale your portfolio. Now, what is the worst case scenario if you were to fail to execute your 1031 exchange? Well, pretty much you would be out the $750 to $1,500, whatever you're paying your third-party intermediary. So that's not that bad. And then, of course, you're still hit with the capital gains. So you still get to pay that too. It's worth a try, definitely, especially if your goal is to acquire more properties. So me personally, as an investor, I have successfully executed a 1031 exchange, my own personal investment property where I sold a single family and I 1031'd that into a commercial mixed use building. And so being my first time ever doing one of those, it was quite nerve-wracking. I did take it all the way up until the end for that 45-day identification period, but I did close much earlier than that 180-day requirement. If you need somebody who's experienced, who knows how to do it, definitely let me know. Reach out to me. Be happy to have a conversation with you on how to go about doing that. On the realtor side, I did also help one of my investor clients complete a massive 1031 exchange. This was quite the crazy ordeal. A lot of this because my investor is kind of crazy. What ended up happening, my investors sold a pretty nice duplex that was worth, pretty good amount of value. They decided to do was, instead of just doing a one-to-one exchange, they were going to sell that one more expensive property and then buy potentially multiple properties to be a cumulative equal or greater value of the one they were selling. So they told me, oh, hey, yeah, I'm going to sell this one, and then I'm going to try and buy as many other properties as I can for that one. And so what we ended up doing, we ended up closing on 4 other properties, after selling that one. So that was, as you can imagine, quite the crazy ordeal to orchestrate, to have everything close all on the same day, and to find a lender that would help us to do this, right? It was freaking amazing at the same time, but it was freaking crazy as well. I don't think I'll ever do another one like that again, but who knows? Maybe I'll have the luck of meeting another crazy investor to do that all over again. But hey, I got the experience. So if you need somebody to be in your corner to help you to execute this successfully, right? Somebody to help guide you through this process, reach out to me. So definitely after my first one, it definitely helped me to help my investor to do that successfully. So thank you so much for watching this. Oh, wait, before I go, right, I was supposed to tell you about how you can avoid paying the capital gains eventually, right? Because what happens is that eventually, when you stop doing a 1031 exchange, right? Say you get to the point where you just do a normal sale on the replacement property, right? Well, when you do that normal sale on that replacement property, all the deferred capital gains, you will have to pay it at that point, right? So from that first property that you did 1031 on, and then the one that you replaced it with, you'll probably have capital gains on that one too, depending on how many 1031s you've done, because you could keep doing more, right? Eventually, the minute that you stop doing a 1031 exchange, all those are going to get caught up, right? So you have to pay it at some point. Now, to avoid getting caught up, simple. You just keep doing 1031 exchanges until you die. So the joke is that, 1031 till you die, and then you don't have to pay the deferred capital gains taxes at all. And so that is the loophole, right? So that's how you get around it. And, it's up to you if you want to actually execute it or not, but it's an interesting way to look at things, right? So if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you can be notified of future videos just like this one. Drop a comment if you're thinking about doing a 1031 exchange, or you're more curious about it, you need some help, right? So if you want to see future strategies just like this one, let me know what you want to hear about, right? I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.